All right, moving on. 2 days after the car bomb blast that shattered the serenity of Delhi's historic Red Fort, the nation is grappling a web of international intrigue that's sending shockwaves. What began as a frantic local probe quickly escalated into a national security crisis as NIA cyber sleuths decrypted Nabi's communications. A damning trail emerged pointing straight to Ankara. The doctor had been in regular contact via the encrypted application Telegram with the handler using the alias Ukasa, believed to be a mid-level operative of Pakistan's Jaish-e-Mohammed, the UN-designated terror group behind the 2019 Pulwama attack. Investigations revealed that this wasn't a lone wolf operation but a sophisticated module that exploited Turkey's lax visa policies. Nabi had visited Istanbul twice in the past year for medical conferences, where he was allegedly groomed by JEM recruiters embedded in Turkish refugee networks. The module targeted Red Fort deliberately, not just for its visibility ahead of Republic Day preparations, but as a symbolic stab at India's secular ethos, echoing the fort's role in the 1857 uprising. On one side, Home Minister is demanding Turkey extradite Ukasa and sever ties with Pakistan, branding Ankara as the new anti-India terror hub. They point to Turkey's growing military and economic pacts with Islamabad. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi, in an address to the parliament, has alleged a grand conspiracy orchestrated by forces beyond our borders, vowing to pursue justice by land, sea or sky. Let's talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Ambassador Suresh Kumar Goel, former diplomat. Major General Shashi Astana, senior defense expert, former DG Infantry, also joins us on the program. Major General Dr. J.K. Bansal, senior defense expert, joins us on the show. And last but by no means the least, Mr. Sumit Peer, senior political commentator, is with us on the program as well. Ambassador Goel, I'll begin with you. Well, India has had its off and on love and hate with Turkey. But it seems, going by the trail that has been discovered by the NIA and other agencies, Turkey is becoming a headache for India. First, for its support to Pakistan, which we also got to see during Operation Sindoor, and now this. What should be India's stance now while dealing with Turkey?
Thank you, Vinny. It's a very complicated issue, really. First of all, I think whatever facts we have got so far, whatever evidence we have got so far, does clearly indicate involvement of Turkish situation, Turkish systems into what happened in Delhi. But it does not really clearly indicate if the Turkish government was anywhere involved in this. I'm saying this with some care that while there may be some doubt, there may be some indication that we need to be very careful. But the fact is that we cannot take the evidence that we have at the moment to indicate the involvement of Turkey officially. That is number one. Number two, even if we do not have clear-cut, conclusive evidence whether Turkey was involved, we cannot completely exonerate Turkey from being beyond suspicion. And therefore, we need to fully investigate whatever evidence we have got to clearly know who was involved and who did what. And lastly, but most importantly, security of India depends upon how we deal with the security systems in our own country. I'm saying it with some great care, really, because I've been in many countries where situations of this kind have arisen and they have dealt with them. Now, the point really here is that even if there are other countries involved, why cannot we have a security system which can actually pinpoint these things before they happen? Now, somebody will say it's very difficult to really find out who was involved, who was not, and basically to really pinpoint in the direction of. I served for 4 years in Egypt, and you will know what I'm talking about. Egypt till 1970s was known as a country which had to deal with this kind of terrorist day in and day out, given the situation of the border on the east and the west, both You will talk about Rafah and in terms of other borders, they had a problem. But have you heard in the recent times of such a problem having arisen in Egypt? Sharm el-Sheikh continues to be host to various high-level meetings, and they are able to deal with these issues. Why? And now that is where my example of living in 4 years in Egypt comes. They had an excellent system of underground network informing on what is happening in the country. They would know exactly the whispers everywhere in Cairo or anywhere in completely. Within a day of it came out. They had a good system of informants. Now, I really wonder that given the kind of situation we face, why we cannot deal with the situation on the basis of intelligence. And we need to. And I'm saying it particularly because in the case of this incident, the police commissioner in Faridabad did mention in his press conference, which was actually telecast all over the media, that Mohsin was in their custody for 6 days, more than 6 or 10 days. And I'm sure he must have given some information. Why can we not really get tight on the information, analyze the information, and deal with the situation? I'm saying it not because I'm disappointed in the way the police behave, but I think we need to be more tighter. It's easy to blame the foreign government, but we need to be careful about our own security.
Okay, all right, fair enough. General Astana, how do you look at this evolving situation? Let me also remind you that there is lots going on in Pakistan at this point in time as well. The ambit of Asim Munir in terms of his powers and the things that he can ratify and control is also being increased at this point in time. Turkey has been very sympathetic to the Pakistani cause as well as the Pakistani perception on Kashmir. How is India supposed to deal with this dual threat now?
We to some extent I agree with the ambassador in a manner that there were certain things which we should have anticipated. Now, what has happened? Let me analyze it in the bigger picture. Post Op Sindoor, the terrorists also learned, and Pakistan also learns its lesson. Now, the lesson which they learned was that the next attack, the handler should not be in Pakistan. The trail should not get back to Pakistan. So they shifted their handlers, maybe perhaps in Turkey. Secondly, involve as many Indians as possible. So therefore, this is what we call as fourth generation warfare, where you have self-actuating groups. Now, many people are wondering as to why all these doctors are indoctrinated or radicalized. It's not new. Osama bin Laden was an engineer, and so was the case with the Zawahiri was a doctor. So educated people getting radicalized is not new, and IS method of operation was exactly like that. So the second thing which they thought of was that create a module in a manner that firstly they can operate themselves, number one. They can collect the local material, which is the case, because this explosive has not come from Pakistan. It has been collected within the country as it appears so far. Thirdly, they should be able to manage that with the directions. And fourthly, the trail should not get back to Pakistan, because India has a policy that every act of terror will be taken as an act of war. So the repercussions can be avoided. Now, if you link it up with some third country, whether Turkey or Bangladesh or somewhere else, then what happens is it becomes complicated for India to respond as far as Pakistan is concerned. So I think with this plot, this whole thing has been planned. Now what has happened is that certainly Indian establishment is acting with maturity. They have not made any loose statements, and the investigations are still on. We certainly need to deal with the whether the government has declared it or not, but we all understand that Turkey has a sympathetic corner, and the possibility of a handler being in Turkey cannot be ruled out. And the fact that these doctors traveled there is quite obvious. So the question is, Dealing with Turkey is possible, and I think India did give some indicators in a manner that Prime Minister visited Cyprus. We were looking at Greece. We are also looking at giving some defense equipment to Armenia. And also, the other complication is why Turkey? The other complication is Turkey is a NATO member. So therefore, again, it creates a slightly different complications by itself. So now what has happened is the second part. Now this is the external part. Now look at the internal part. I think internally, I totally agree that the collaborators, they need to be taken very harshly. Uh, we have, we have faltered on this because all these doctors who have been arrested, before they were arrested, Mehbooba Mufti and Omar Abdullah, they were all Kashmiris are not terrorists, and all that sloganeering was already on. So the problem is that not many people get caught, but there were hardly any convictions. If you recall, after Op Sindhu, a lot of people who gave shelter to those terrorists, they were caught. There were, I think, 10, 15 people were rounded up. I think, but nowadays, what exactly happened to them, I don't think anybody has kept track of it. So I think our laws, like this UAPA is a slightly weaker law. We had quota earlier, but all these activists, they put tremendous amount of pressure and got that law removed. So these are some of the things which we need to perhaps work it out. And certainly the response has to be both sides, and we have to get into the root of it. Good thing is that a major mishap, the kind of potential which this explosive had and which Raisin had, was tremendous, and that has been averted. That I think is the only good thing which we can perhaps feel happy about. Otherwise, every life lost is a pain to the country. Back to you.
All right. Sumit Peer, how do you look at the evolving situation here? Of course, the worrying symptoms that have also been decoded or deciphered are the fact that a number of people who are part of the system, a societal system, have been plotting against the country. How do you deal with that?
Vinny, thank you for having me on your show, and thanks for conducting this debate. And a good question to begin with. Look, when you look at the problem, you can have terrorism, which can be an internal problem, but this is not a terrorism which is an internal problem mainly. It is orchestrated, funded, and money has been coming from Middle East and Pakistan. You will come to know in a couple of days what I'm telling you, and by the grace of God, 99% I'm right on what I predict. There is a Middle Eastern link to it. There is a Pakistani link to it. Let's not be naive, because Pakistani army are terrorists with uniform. They are constantly trying to hurt you. What did these gentlemen nahi kehna chahiye, what did these terrorists do in 2022? Why did they went to Turkey? What were they doing there? What was the brother of this Dr. Adil? What was he doing in Dubai? And when the operation started, why did he run to Afghanistan? I mean, you can't ignore these links which are very visible. Even at the time of Delhi riots, the name of Bilal Erdogan came up, which is Tayyip Erdogan's brother. I have been telling for last 1.5, 2 years, Erdogan wants to be a player in the Kashmir. He's trying his best to get his foot into the Kashmir, and he will try possibly through Hamas and Hezbollah. And then what happens is Hamas gets a pass through Iran. Again, Iran lets Hamas pass and they reach POK. After POK, what happens? The Pahalgam happens, right? So there is a pattern which is done to encircle India, that is done to hurt India in whatever ways. Whatever Tayyip Erdogan thinks and believes he is, he came with Pakistan to our borders. He was there with his drones and whatever he brought. We whacked him. And it doesn't matter who he is and which alliance he is part of. If he comes again, we'll whack him again. That is what Tayyip Erdogan, they're all jihadis. He's an Islamist, he's a terrorist. What do you call that idiot? He's a jihadi Islamist terrorist. He believe there's a run for Khilafah between three countries, Pakistan, Saudi and Turkey. They all want to be the caliphs of the Islamic world, and they are all fighting against each other. I mean, Saudi, being our second biggest trading partner, did a military pact with your number one enemy, that's called Pakistan. Now, last time, Turkey, Azerbaijan, and there are two more countries which General Devedi does not name. China was there, Pakistan was there, and Turkey was there, Azerbaijan was there. Possibly two more countries were there, which are not to be named. In my opinion, one was Iran, another was Qatari money. And even if you look in this, again Turkey, again the money possibly is coming from Middle East. Now the NIA and all are investigating this university or whatever you want to call it, a den of the terror, where everything seems to be culminating at one end. How did this Dr. Nisar, which was terminated by the J&K government for having activity links with the terrorists, how did he end up here? And thanks to that gentleman there, name is SSP Chakravarti, who was the SSP of that region where the posters came up. He ordered the investigation. He wanted the police to go deep into it, and all the police and all the forces across the India collaborated, and I salute them for what they have done. Imagine if they could have gone. Now we know today, Ayodhya was on target. We know Varanasi was on target. We know they were trying to blast Delhi. We know they have got 32 cars. They've only been able to find 4. We know 28 are missing. We know they were trying to detonate bombs. They were trying to kill people and fire at the people when the bombs go off. We know these are highly radicalized jihadis. We have the emergence of white collar jihad. We have the emergence of chemical jihad. We have this emergence from the South Kashmir, these doctors whom you spent crores of rupees in making them. देखो विनय जब अनपढ़ थे तो पत्थरबाज थे, अब पढ़ लिख गए तो बमबाज बन गए. That is the reality of the life. I mean, when they study more, they become more sophisticated. Osama bin Laden, engineer, Evan al-Zamiri, doctor, his father, doctor, his grandfather, professor. Did that change the way of jihad? And how do you settle jihad? You settle jihad by this way. Now, when you have countries which are scheming against you, and the Honorable Prime Minister is talking about you, when the Honorable Home Minister is talking about you, we are greatly thankful to our security agencies, everybody who prevented this disaster. We need 2,900 kilos of explosive you do to start a war. You could do a much bigger blast what happened in Beirut. You were trying to have multiple Bombay attacks. They on record to investigators had said they want to avenge Babri Masjid ka demolition. They wanted to do it on 6th December. They wanted to spill as much of Hindu blood which is possible. I mean, we can be naive, we can think ki ha hua, ye hua. There's a hardcore jihadis. What is Tayyip Erdogan's role? What does Tayyip Erdogan want to do here? What is the Turkey? What we have discussed Bilal Erdogan so many times here. Now Pakistani handlers operating out of Turkey, and Turkey government doesn't know. Either they are in hibernation or they are idiots. Now why doesn't Israel want so-called peacekeepers in Gaza of Turkey? Because Benjamin Netanyahu knows what Tayyip Erdogan is up to. Let's face it. There are handlers in Dubai, there are handlers in Afghanistan, and they are all at the end of the day scheming to destroy our country. When these people had a very clear motive कि 6 December का बदला लेना है, it is out, it is all clear. I'm not casting aspersions. They were targeting Ayodhya, they were targeting 25th November Ayodhya, they were targeting Kashi, and they wanted to spill as much of blood which is possible. When we know all these facts and they perpetually come from one place that is called South Kashmir. Now what is the difference between, and this South Kashmir has a beautiful thing, you had these illiterate jihadis pelting stones, pattharbaz. Then you had a headmaster ka beta Burhanwani, with a beautiful smile. Then you had a MSc Mathematics Riaz Naiku. Uske baad aaya ek Professor Jilani who attacked the parliament. Now you have these doctors who want to kill you with ice and who want to have 3,000 kilos of explosives packed in suitcase and try to spill as much of blood they can. Now there's something wrong there. There is something grossly wrong there. And how do you expect the country to come up when all the countries around you are coping and conspiring to hurt you to as much as possible? Now we'll go and back Pakistan. We'll get that Jadi Mullah Munir because very clear. You have to get the serpent's head and you have to blast his den. That is GHQ Rawalpindi, because these disposable jihadis will keep on coming and going. And this also breaks one myth. Pada likha unpad jihadi same hota hai. Even pada likha jihadi is more dangerous than unpad jihadi. If they were illiterate, they could have not got 3,000 kilograms of ammonium nitrate. If they was illiterate, they could not arrange all these cars. And they all converged in this Al-Falah University, which is the epicenter of the terror. And Dr. Shaheen is on record saying 4 baje ke baad asli kaam hota tha. Now, you are understanding the quantum of planning which went there. Where did the money come from? This must have taken how many 20, 30 crores, buying 32 cars costs how much? Where did the money come from? Obviously, this is not their money. Who paid for their Turkey trips? Who paid for their foreign voyages? And what is this Adil's brother who's in Dubai, then in Afghanistan, and who's this Usaka?
Okay, all right. Fair enough, Sumit. Fair enough. Let me open General Bansal into this conversation as well. General Bansal, you've heard a lot from the other panelists as well. What's your take here, sir? And what kind of security threat perception is India supposed to modify now?
I will say only one thing, that we always keep on saying we are fighting 2.5 front, 3.5 front. What this half front war time has come is to be focused on this half front war with what is within the India. General Astana has very rightly said now they have changed the modus operandi. They're involving most of the people from our country. Similarly, this kind of thing that you cannot, every country, you cannot keep on questioning and fighting, that we have to focus that how this Al-Falah University is working. This should be immediately disbanded, and the law are to be made very strict now to deal with jihadis, their supporter, their handler within the country, message should go very strict that yes, if somebody is harboring this kind of terrorist, then it has to be taken to the task. Now, as far as very rightly, Pakistan has this terrorists, they have played very smartly that they are operating from other country like Turkey, and this all the material, the explosive has come, I think, from Bangladesh through Nepal. So they are changing their modus operandi. And now, of course, the message to be sent to all the countries, and Turkey government has started giving their explanation that yes, we are not involved, but they definitely are the sympathizer and they have the soft corner. If they are not involved, the person who was doing the radicalization should be handed over to India if they say they are not involved. And other thing is that our security is to be tightened more, intelligence has to be made much more intensive, and the law are to be made very strict so that the people inside the India who are having this kind of conspiracy are to be taken, has to be dealt very strictly than only something. And the people who are supporting or making any statement, they also should be taken to the task. They should be arrested if they give any supportive or any kind of statement. And this Al Falah University, I fail to understand why this type of industry, and that was very rightly said by Sumit, that a person who was
All right.
who was banned in Kashmir, how he was given appointment here. So it has to be done more in our country itself to handle this situation.
Totally agree with you, sir. Totally agree with you. We've run out of time, but appreciate all the perspectives and the insights that we've been able to assimilate here. Thank you so much, sir. We take a short break now. We'll be back.